David, why do you think Germany's healthcare cost is so much lower?
Partly because they don't have most. Like I said, they have 1,100 entities that manage the payment.
1,100?
1,100, yeah.
Would that be?
But most of them are nonprofit consortiums. And so you don't have, remember, the average profit of American health insurance company is about 12.5%. Very, very steady, very regularly. And, you know, they don't have that, overcome that part there. And I also think they have better cap on the services provided. So you don't get this
cap
Okay.
on services
You know.
provided.
talk
You're
about
rationing
cap on
healthcare.
services.
Everybody rations healthcare.
Just
United
depends on how you
States,
do it. We
well,
ration it
United
according
States-
to cost.
Exactly. You have people out there who desperately need to have a wound for properly treated, but don't have the $1,000 to do so. And so they may die of gangrene. That doesn't happen in Germany unless you are simply one of those people who won't go to the doctor.
I mean, so many people complain about having their medical decisions dictated by insurance companies. They're requiring you to go on a certain medication when your doctor is prescribing another one, and that could be really frustrating. And I'm not talking about the generic versus the name brand. I'm talking about an alternative drug that may not necessarily be the one that the doctor's prescribing. There are different indices for each thing. So it also could relate to the course of treatment. Now, the other thing that I thought it was really interesting, Dave, was the bit about the nonprofit, because we're seeing that in the Medicaid end with nursing homes, particularly with nursing homes, where as the reimbursement rates on Medicaid are increasingly decreased, the
Private pay.
for-profit nursing homes are bottoming out. Their bottom lines are getting affected so drastically that they're starting to shut their doors. The nonprofits, on the other hand, if they're well endowed or if they're engaging in some other money-making ventures, are more able to absorb the costs and not have to worry quite as much about the bottom
We're
line.
trying to make profit
Always
on something
going
you
to be
can't.
profit to be made.
Unless, of course, we're in a
But-
Star Trek, utopian
You-
world where all money and profit are gone and move
Right.
on.
Is that-
But
I just
you're
had to put
missing a
that in
key
there.
point here. The question is, does healthcare an industry that adheres to the basic fundamentals of a capitalist-free market? And the
Okay.
answer is no.
Capitalist
Yeah.
free.
That's critical. Bonnie, you just bought a house, right? And I'll bet you took your time looking for that house, maybe even a couple of years. You may have postponed the decision because of the crisis financially we're going on and the housing. And if you broke your leg, could you take 2 years to decide and make a decision how to take care of it? And could you shop around all over the place to
Of
find
course
the
not.
cheapest?
Of course not. That
That means
yes,
you
yes.
can't have a capitalist market.
Okay, and actually that I buy into.
You know.
That I'll personally buy
The
into.
opportunity
That's an interesting-
cost.
So
is gone.
we have a capitalist market now. I mean, that's essentially what we're trying to make work.
Well, and now I'm thinking, what is the place of the HMO in this whole conversation? I mean, people have really run from them for a variety of different reasons. You have to be
Like
in the
you're saying
network.
HMO,
or
Actually,
whatever.
in
HMO is a
Ohio,
way to put the
that's
cap in
becoming
place.
standard policy for the Medicaid in Ohio.
HMO.
Well, managed care. They don't call it HMOs anymore.
Yes,
It's now
it
called
is.
managed care.
It's
you
the
know.
same thing, a horse by any other
I was
name.
on an HMO until this year,
Okay.
and I was on it for 25 years, and I had no problems whatsoever. Now I'm on traditional insurance. I have got problems up the wazoo, and I'm fighting with the insurance company perpetually.
And that was one of the
That's
places I was
interesting.
going with my question about who profits. Okay, because there's a huge insurance company lobby out there too.
I mean, isn't that part of what's going on here? That our system has an unelected set of influencers. They're powerful. Their folks are really
Yes, they are
powerful.
very powerful.
But see, and
Well,
I'm,
that's not an issue, George, until they get so powerful that they're the kingmakers and decide who gets to be.
Aren't they?
Well,
I think
isn't
that's
that
a
the
very
super
interesting
PAC?
question. To some
but
extent,
there's
we're gonna
super
find out.
PACs on all sides. Look, you're gonna.
But true, but
you're
wherever
not-
you go, they're the powerful people.
I'm unwilling to take that final step of saying we have to, check our First Amendment rights at the door and no longer become lobbyists or interest group representatives or,
Yeah,
or
there's
petition
that
the government
that's
for
the
redress
dilemma.
of grievances.
That's
I mean,
the-
then,
But
we
we're
may
not
as well
petitioning the
be
government for
Libya
redress of
or some
government.
such
We're
place.
we're petitioning the government to get our own way. To heck with grievances. It's my way or the highway. That's what a
Yeah,
lot of
but
the
that
lobbyists
but
are
it
doing.
doesn't always fly.
We have an excellent tape back in the department. It goes back to the 1980s, so we don't use it anymore. VHS. I'm not even sure you can find a machine to play it around here anymore. But it talks about the problem of the influence of money. And you have Gerald Ford sitting there saying it's not the donations per se, it's the dimensions of it. Am I going to sell my soul for $25,000? No. $25 million? That may be the difference between winning and losing.
Well, I just asked that about the HMOs because I remember when, now managed care, okay, but I remember when they first came into being. That's relatively new, and people were very, very antsy about it. And some people had positive experiences and some people had negative experiences, but those who were comfortable really felt like they were in good hands. I'm concerned. I want to choose my physician.
Well, that's the issue when it comes to managed care.
And this bothers me. Even
It said
for
insist, I didn't
insurance,
say receive.
house insurance, car insurance, you pay for 20 years.
I'm
And
gonna
you
get
never
out
have
of
an
that. I'm not gonna
accident,
get in
you
that
never
debate.
have an incident, and then you have an accident and they pay for it and they cancel you.
Well, yeah. Well,
Or you're paying health insurance every day, out of every check and whatever, and you have an incident and they say they won't pay for that incident. An ailment, and they say they won't pay for that ailment. And the money, as you said, goes back into the general fund, but that was money that was supposed to be for health care.
insurance is the only industry where you pay to have it and pay more to use if you have to use it. So the having of the product you paid for is irrelevant because having a product necessarily means you want to use the product. You buy that bottle of water. You're paying for that bottle of water. It's almost saying you have to pay double when you open it up and drink the bottle of water you already paid for.
I'm not disagreeing.
And the other thing that bothers me is this deterministic attitude that is coming out of this notion of entitlements that there, before Johnson, before the Great Society, there were people who were dying from ailments that were not terminal. It bothers me that the people who can afford to pay can pay, and the ones that can't afford to pay die.
Well, I think the other question, and it's a very legitimate question. When we talk about this, people usually say, I want the same health insurance Congress gets.
You're right,
That's
for
not
life.
going to happen. Most of the members of Congress are millionaires. And all the countries and all the horrible misinformation we have, if you're a millionaire in Canada, you can go get private doctor, you can go to a private hospital, you can pay, you got it. Always been that way in the UK, always been that way in France, always been that way in Germany. This sort of notion that you can't is silly. We're not going to be able to afford that. Nobody. It doesn't matter if we all pay into it or not. But the question is, what is the base level? What's the baseline of health care we're entitled to? And I don't think we've addressed that adequately.
We're up.